I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome to the Lee Select Board meeting. It's February 7th. The time is 7 o'clock. Our first order of business are the open session minutes for January 17th.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from January 17th.
I'll second that.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our next order of business, we have a continuation of public hearing from our last meeting. This is for a entertainment license for every day of the week, but there are two different licenses because the state needs a license for Sunday. So I was wondering, I guess, if we have somebody from the lake house here, maybe they're on Zoom. Oh, there you are. I know you have a knee replacement, so I don't think we want you to. Okay, so if you'd like to stand up and you can come to the podium and just kind of help.
And again, I want to apologize that I wasn't here a month ago. You did not want me here a month ago.
Okay.
The brain was not functioning right, so.
Yeah, so we had a number of comments the last round that the permit that you submitted is rather broad, and we were kind of I guess looking at options of how to sort of narrow it and be respectful for the neighbors in a couple different ways. My first sort of thought is perhaps we can somehow outline at a certain point in the night no outdoor music, and then you can do indoor music to a certain time or something to that matter. And then I know that there's a number of town ordinances that I think we looked at as well that may also kind of impact when you can have music outside and the like. So maybe you can kind of just give us a little bit of what you're looking for from the town.
Sure. Well, first of all, I hate loud music.
Okay.
Just understand that. I saw Dr. Cavalli in Pittsfield the other day, and he said I have the best hearing he's ever seen in a guy who's pushing 60, because I never listen to loud music, and I'm not going to listen to it at my own inn. It's never going to happen. This inn has been used for weddings in the past. Weddings tend to continually crank up the music late into the night. Mm-hmm. I pretty much avoid weddings because of that, and because of drunk people, and I don't just avoid them in my personal life. I'm not having weddings at the lake house. Drunk people, loud music, and a cliff off into the lake, not really my thing. Our plan is to be able to entertain people out there. And just for the record, I have another inn in Lenox called the Cornell Inn. It's been very successful. We ran live music, and by the way, in a much more residential area. I mean, people living in houses right next to an apartments across the street, never one complaint. I play the music softly. It's a 1-2. We had 1-3-person band. This is not rock. This is a singer singing classic rock songs. And we never had a single complaint because my idea of people sitting out under the stars and having a glass of wine is you're talking to your loved ones and you're able to hear them way louder than the music. Mm-hmm. I honestly don't believe anybody will hear this music outside of our little yard in the back there. In terms of limitations, I don't remember what I put in the application at this point, but we don't plan to ever play music. We have quiet hours in the inn, in both inns, after 10 p.m., inside and out. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to disturb neighbors. That's not acceptable to me, period. It's just not. I wouldn't want to be disturbed, and I don't want to disturb anybody else. So our plan is very quiet music, contained, and I did this in a much more congested area, and honestly didn't bother a soul because I'm too attentive to that kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, so in the permit that we have in front of us, you're requesting till midnight.
Yeah.
And so I think we can just right away limit that till.
I have no problem
to
cutting
10.
that back till 10 o'clock. We have no plans. You know, I filled out the permit. I'm gonna be next to a pot dispensary on one side and it never occurred.
I think there's a residence on the other side, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's retirement residence, but there's no way music will hit that. It would have to go through the building. I don't think there's any chance they would hear music, but you know, we put that down because at the time we were fantasizing that we may have the occasional wedding, and weddings want to go to midnight. But having now actually lived at the inn for the last 3 or 4 weeks while I'm recuperating from my surgery, because I can live on one floor, we have a lot of people trespass on the property and go out to that cliff. And I don't want the liability. I don't want to do weddings, so I'm not going to play music past 10.
Okay. Yeah, I think the other thing that we were, the other thing that you have here on your application is up to a 5-person band. That's sort of, we were like, oh boy, rock band, that's where I think that a lot of people were, we were sort of looking at that, but.
So that's.
But we're not, I don't want to limit your
No.
your amount of.
I wish you guys had come to this other establishment. 90% of the time it was one person on a guitar with me constantly testing the volume to make sure it's as low as it can be so people can talk over it. On one occasion we had a 3-person band and a couple people happened to show up who knew them and went up and sang with them. I mean, that's the truth. It's one 15-watt amplifier we play through. This isn't a rock show. I have zero interest in it. I cannot stress this enough. None. If you guys came and sat down, and I hope you do, if we are serving out there, the music will not ever bother you. It's just not what we want to be.
Gordon, do you guys want to?
No, I just mention that there is a sound ordinance in the town of Lee that can be used as guidelines.
Yeah.
Should it ever be in question, but I appreciate that you've come in and clarified that, because not knowing was more the problem than anything else.
Listen, I'm pretty neurotic about following ordinances. I want to get along with everybody.
Yeah.
It's fairly hard because the number of ordinances on it, and it's about 3 miles long, and there's nobody who greets you and says, here are all the ordinances. They kind of find them out as you go.
Yeah.
And we jump to comply every time, and if you talk to people like Don Fitzgerald and other people in town hall, both in Lenox and Lee, please do. You will find out we don't mess around. We are compliant with everything. We have no interest in that.
Yeah.
No? Thank you.
What about the 8 a.m. start for music outside?
If that's what the application says,
That's what it says.
Okay, I apologize for that. That's just a mistake. So part of the entertainment license, as I understood it, is we play soft music at breakfast when we serve guests breakfast, and breakfast starts at 8 o'clock. We don't turn the music on till 8. We do want to be able to have guests be able to sit outside, but guys, we're talking music that if you have bad hearing, you won't be able to hear it. There's no hyperbole here. We do not play loud music. This is breakfast, okay? And we play classics. And it's never at a decibel level that's going to be heard outside of our yard or offend anybody. Please come visit please come visit the Cornell. You will see how loud we play the music. I mean, seriously, come over there tomorrow morning and see the decibel level of our morning music. It's not loud enough to ever bother anyone. We would like to have a speaker on the building, put quiet music out while people are having breakfast. Nobody beyond our property would be able to hear it. I promise you. If they came up on a boat under the cliff, they won't be able to hear it.
Yeah, no, I think we thank you for your clarification on that. We just wanted to get somebody here and just, guys, before I open it up to the public.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, what about on Sundays and also the amplification issue?
Because you are on water, yeah, so that was the other comment that came on.
Yeah, okay.
So if you're having these, a in-person band, are they usually outside or are they usually inside?
well, over the summer, they would be outside, but they would be, their backs and the amplifier, the back of the amplifier would be to the lake.
So they'd be aimed at the building,
aimed
which
at
could
the-
rebound, but, okay, so it's
you-
amplification.
I'm very aware of acoustics,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's very important that you set up the amplifier that it doesn't do that, or the music is distorted for the guests. So you can't have the music bounce off the building. That's really an important part of just having quiet, crisp, soothing music. And you can put it in there. I will not face an amplifier other than at my building. I have no problem complying with that because I would never do it. And I think anybody who would is honestly being inconsiderate to others.
And on Sundays, how late do you usually serve your clients on Sundays?
We'd like to be able to serve people till, a dinner till, I don't know, 9:30, 10 o'clock. That's kind of when.
So because it is two different permits, so
How
we'd
are there
also
two
be
different
lowering.
permits? I'm so
Well,
sorry.
you have one only for Sunday,
Oh, I
Right.
got it. Okay,
and so I'm looking at them differently.
got it.
So the Sunday permit would also be 10 PM.
Yeah,
Do you have no problem with that? Again,
not at all. We have universal quiet hours at 10, inside and out. We don't play any music, and we don't allow guests to be loud. We don't allow guests to be loud anytime, but they have to be quiet for all guests and neighbors after 10 PM, anywhere on the grounds. We also don't allow smoking anywhere on the grounds, inside or out. That might get a little tricky with a pot dispensary next to us, but we don't intend
let them
to.
go over there.
They're not allowed to smoke there either.
Yeah, I know, that's true, so,
Can't
I'll
smoke.
have to go to the boat ramp.
No, not if it's
That's
on
true,
my
not in
property.
Massachusetts, well, I'd say the boat ramp, Commonwealth. No, I guess I have a concern, as long as he has, I think he needs to have a copy of our chapter 140 noise ordinance, so
Yeah.
he understands the decibel levels. We'll get that to you if this is approved, but I guess as long as it's, I'm still concerned about the amplification issue. So what about the up to 5-person band? You want to say 3? I mean, if the public joins them and sings, that's a different issue. I don't care.
I have no
So,
problem amending it to 3 people.
I think I'd like to see it go to 3-person. Yeah, if you want to get up and sing with them, I'm not going to count you as a band member. You know?
We have that happen more than you would think.
No, I've seen it. I've been
Yeah.
places where that's happened.
Yeah. And like I
think
said,
that's a problem.
probably 70-80% of our artists that we use are solo artists, and it's an acoustic guitar. In fact, I've never had an electronic guitar at the place. They're playing acoustic guitar with
Right, with the pickup.
the pickup, and but these are the
Yeah,
whole
I get it.
amp weighs, I don't know, 5-10 pounds. It's in our basement. We set
Right.
it up in 30 seconds, and it puts out, I don't know, 15 watts.
So they're not bringing their own amps. They're using yours.
Yeah, they use ours, and I think it's a 15-watt amp. I don't think if you cranked it to its full capacity, which we don't even do, would it bother anybody, so.
I guess if we would reduce it to a 3-person band and change the hours from 8 to 10 on both permits, give them a copy of the noise ordinance, and also, going by what he said, if he keeps the amplification down so it stays on his property, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Can't think of any other, maybe the public will have more input.
Yeah, I was just about to
Yeah.
open it up for comment. Thank you for
Do you want me to stay here
clarification.
to address comments, or?
If
For a
you,
moment.
yeah, if you don't mind lingering, because I know it might be hard to
Honestly,
just
guys,
get up
I'm
and
more
down.
comfortable than a wooden bench.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
So
good.
if I'll recognize anybody here in the room first, if there's anybody wants to ask anything. And I guess I see a lot of shaking heads, so Chris, if there's anybody with
I
their
don't
hands
see
up
any hands
there.
right now.
Anybody
online.
on Zoom? I hope we're not muted. We haven't been muted this whole time.
You're
Okay.
good.
It's
That's me. That's
I'll
all.
let you know.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
we have 8 people on Zoom, yep.
So I don't see any hands there.
Okay. So if there's nothing further from the board and we don't get anybody from the public, I'd entertain a motion for approval of both permits, the weekday permit and the Sunday permit, entertainment license that is, and with the amendments to this, that we're gonna reduce the number of members of the band to 3, we're gonna hold you to a cutoff at 10 PM we'll allow 8 AM to 10 PM. And then we'll provide you with the ordinances and work with you to any issues that come
I would
up.
have never gone beyond those anyway, so I'm very grateful, thank you.
Well, if you'd like that as a motion, I'll make that as a motion.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a nice night, everyone.
So that ends our public hearing. Our next item on the agenda is public comment, and we have a bunch of people here. I'm sure there's a bunch of public comments that everyone wants to make, so whoever, we'll start with people, and don't everybody stand up at once.
I'm just going to make this short and sweet, about 20 minutes or so. But anyways, I'm Kathy Hall, the chairwoman of the Lee Youth Commission and a member of the Lee Master Plan Committee. I have 3 things to talk about. 1, ice skating. There is no ice skating this week because of problems with the liner and the warmer weather. The Lee Youth Commission is still hopeful for colder weather to afford us the opportunity for skating during February school vacation. Chief Brown will do what the fire department can to check the condition of the rink and let us know if there is sufficient ice to skate. The second thing is the master plan survey and the public forum. The survey can be found on the town website, www.lee.ma.us. And hard copies can be found at various locations in town, such as the Lee Library, the Lee Food Pantry, the Town Hall, etc. Please help the Master Plan Commission or Committee with your input for the needs of our town. There will also be a public forum on Saturday, February 18th, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Lee High School Auditorium, better known to many of us as the Z. Here you will learn about a master plan and exchange your thoughts and vision for the future of our town. And lastly, the development of 300 Stockbridge Road. The town received a $25,000 grant to hire a consultant to investigate the possible development of the town's 171 acres on 300 Stockbridge Road. Berkshire Regional Planning Commission has already started this endeavor by talking with the abutters, town officials, town departments, and townspeople. At this point, one of the concerns is agricultural land on the property. This might be addressed at tonight's meeting. That's it. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Good, thank you.
No.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Mr. Chubb, one raised hand.
We have one raised hand. I don't see anybody jumping up here. You wanna yield to the Zoom before you comment, Ann? Okay. Yeah, we'll take.
This one's waiting. No, I'm just waiting for.
She's on the agenda
Oh,
for, I believe she's on the agenda, not under public comment. Right, Chris?
Yeah, she'd be the release of lien.
Right.
Comment before or after the subject comes up?
You can comment before.
Oh, we can
Yeah,
comment before?
absolutely.
Okay, I'll go.
Okay, I guess we'll,
Okay, so I would just like to
just let us know who you are and, yeah.
I'm Cindy Mathias. I live on, in Lee, okay? When the positions for, board positions and committees come up, I would just like to, suggest that it be advertised broadly, widely, in more than one place, so people know and understand what's available, and to state the experience needed and what the position entails, so no one is intimidated and they understand what they're getting into. And I think it would broaden the audience, and I think we need to have new blood involved in town hall. And I think that's really extremely important to say. Also, if there's any bylaws on how many days something's supposed to be posted, you know, because sometimes you put it up and it's like this, there has to be a wide net and a search, and people need to know exactly how much time they have from the start to finish. Okay, I appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair.
Just, you
You
want to do it,
wanna,
or?
do you want to
Oh, no, I
respond?
was just
Yeah,
gonna
go
say,
ahead.
thank you for that, Cindy, and as you were mentioning that, I thought of, we have a section on the website, we've been posting them, and I can add some links to where our board and committee guide, you can find that has more information about it. But also wanted to just mention too, that if you go to the website for the subscribe, when we put those news items up, you can get an email too, is another thing that people can subscribe to, but we'll definitely look at some ways to improve that.
And just to remind folks at home, we have brought up many times at the select board meetings about how we're missing a number of people on various boards. And as part of the minutes that we just approved at our last minute, we talked about 2 vacancies on the Community Preservation Act Committee, 2 vacancies on the Historical Commission. Appalachian Trail Committee needs members. Sadly, we have no one on the town Cable Advisory Committee. We have 3 seats and not a person will come forward. We've talked about this since last fall, and it's been on our website since last fall. We can get no one, just a minute, Gail. We have no one who's come forward yet with it to say, yeah, they'd be interested. This is,
Because my cable will
Oh,
go up to $200.
trust me, that's why I get angry at the cable company, and of course, we're stuck with them because they're a monopoly. That's probably the most discouraging for me as I look at who's not volunteering.
I know, but I think it is
Yeah.
advertised and people
It has
understand
been.
what they need besides the
Yeah.
website and
Yes.
explanation of what
Okay.
they're looking for. I think
Sure.
we'll get a lot of new young people.
Well, that would be great. Right now, I'll tell you, to be on the Cable Town Advisory Committee, you need to have a pulse. And if you have a pulse, I'll put you on there, because it's that important to me that we get representation. Right now, we have other towns that are talking and reviewing all this stuff, and we don't have a seat, you know. Also, we have, as you know, Board of Assessors, Board of Registrars, and at least 2 for the Agricultural Commission. So that's just what we talked about at our last committee, and those are all posted. So, and we just get nobody. I mean, I've reached out to people and individually asked them, and it's like, you know. It's hard to get anybody these days to volunteer. You know, these are all unpaid positions, but,
I just think if you make it interesting and you give a description and say that you have
Yep.
to have a pulse.
Okay.
You're welcome.
that would be good. Well, maybe we'll add that to the what's online. Could be helpful, thank you.
We could definitely get some link to, and I actually had a couple people, you know, some people have emailed me, and I always send them that board and committee things. We've had some,
Yeah.
but nobody's been,
Yeah.
you know, we've
Yeah.
gone back and forth with a few people and
Yeah.
talked to them on the phone, and
Yeah.
so, especially, actually 2 people on that
Yeah.
cable advisory in particular, but we haven't had anyone ready to pull the trigger yet, so.
Yeah.
If I may.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I think the larger problem is, as Gordon is saying, is getting people to come forward. I've had one inquiry
Yeah.
since I've been on this board about, gee, we'd like to help the town, how can we help it? So I gave that person a list of the various committees where there were seats available, and to my knowledge, they never followed up on it. But if you have any interest at all in helping the town, it's not a stretch to find out how to do that. I mean, you don't have to put it on a billboard or in a full-page ad in the Eagle. If you want to know, the information is there. As Gordon says, we've discussed it repeatedly at these meetings. If you don't listen to select board meetings, well, I guess you're not going to know. If you don't go to the town website, I guess you're not going to know. If you don't call Chris and to say, I'm interested, what do you got? You're not going to know.
Yeah.
So I think you have to turn it around and go to all your friends and all your neighbors and say, look, the town needs help. You want to bang the drum to get new blood in town hall. I agree with you completely. But you can't grab somebody and hold them down and force them to be on a board. And there's plenty of access to information as to what's available. So
That's been tried too. It's just, they get up and go, so can't get them to volunteer.
Right.
I see we got a hand from
Yes,
Josh
yeah,
Bloom
Josh
here
Bloom.
also. Gail, we'll get to you in a minute, if that, is that okay? Yeah. You wanna,
And come
Josh, I think
mosey on up here in the meantime.
Hi,
yes.
Yeah, hi.
Bloom from 204 West Park Street in Lee. First, I'm glad to hear the call for volunteers, and I will follow up offline about one of those openings, and I hope others will follow suit. I wanted to call your attention to the EPA had put out a report in December and has an open call for responses. And the deadline for those responses are February 13th. And this is for the conceptual design plan for the upland disposal facility. I wanted to ask that either the select board consider individually or collectively, as well as the town administration, to consider whether it can also review the reporting plan and submit either individual or collective response to the EPA by the 13th deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. We are planning, I think, collectively to submit some comments that, I know last time I spoke to Chris, Bob and I had kind of reviewed that. I don't think he had heard back
I've
from
been
you at this
compiling
point.
Yeah, I
them,
talked,
so-
You
I
did,
talked
so-
to Chris in the meantime.
So Chris has some notes from us on that, and we are planning on collectively filing comments.
And I did file comments on the dam, which is due today.
Today.
Those have been filed as well.
Those are, yeah, and then, so we have submitted comments for the specific, this is the Columbia Mill Dam,
Yeah,
right?
Columbia Dam.
And then we're planning on submitting more comments as well.
And are you releasing those to the public so that we can see them as well?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. It's all public record eventually, but we can make those public before the EPA does. I don't know what the timeline is for
They
them,
could add
but
them to the board
yeah,
site.
we could add it to the site and post it.
I wouldn't think there's any problem. I mean, we're sending it to them. I don't
Yeah.
see why we can't put what we sent today should go on the website, sure, our website,
Yeah,
for
we
sure.
can do that.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And I know, Gail, did you want to say something before I recognize Ann? Just,
Very quick.
I'd ask you to come forward if you can. I don't want, I know, even if it's quick.
I just had a quick comment about the subject matter.
The boards,
before.
yeah.
I was just thinking, like, if there could be a small description on some, like the CPS, what is it, the board or whatever.
Oh, sure.
Just a
On the
small-
board.
Cable advisory,
Just-
yeah.
Yeah, just so people might have a clue of what they're doing.
Sure.
And if they don't know anything, if there's training or whatever.
Yeah.
No, it
Yeah,
makes
great.
sense.
Okay.
Yeah, and they kind of run the gamut on that, so from, like, some that need a lot of training to some that, like the cable advisory, the assessor's position requires, and Sarah could mention more, but several weeks of schools and so forth that you have to go to.
Yeah, training.
Certified.
Cable advisory, as Gordon said.
Gotta have a pulse.
Thank
See
you,
a lot of
Gail.
pulses here.
And you,
And a lot of us work really hard at
Yes,
things we already
we know
work
that, we know that, Ann, absolutely. Hello.
Smart.
just let everybody know at home who you are, and
Glasses so I can see. Okay. Do I move this at all, or can everybody hear me okay? Okay, just because I'm a little taller, I
He's
wasn't
saying
sure.
it's good, he's saying it sounds good.
Okay, super. Ann Langless, I live on Union Street in Lee, and I am here tonight to do a not too short presentation for some information with HRI, which is Housatonic River Initiative. So I have 4 packets. They are not stapled. They are not numbered. There are 8 pages. So bear with me. I drove back from Baltimore today. There's probably a ton of misspelling things in there. Please forgive them all.
It's all right. Thank you.
try not to fall asleep in between my yawning, just kidding. Okay, so I'm basically here to talk about Willow Hill Road landfill, which is also known as Schweitzer Madui landfill, formerly owned by Kimberly Clark. There are some very bad chemicals that are currently leaking and have been leaking for years from the Willow Hill Road landfill into the north side neighborhood, through some of the streams and into some of the residents actually in their properties. The two that have specifically been identified are what's called 1,4-dioxane and naphthalene. And these tests to find these particular chemicals were performed both by DEP and a three-stream testing done by an independent company in East Long Meadow that was paid for from the group HRI. In the little packet I gave you, I emailed earlier tonight the full reports from where these pictures and information was pulled from. So at your leisure, you guys can delve in if you choose to and match up the things that I'm going to talk about tonight. Let's see. First, I wanted to point out that you can see within the reports that the trends in the monitoring wells and streams over time, that the surface water and dioxane, they have increased, those particular chemicals, and you can see that in the report. Again, I emailed the full report to you guys. My thought was, our thought, is there a possibility that there's an underground plume with those chemicals in it that are leaching out further? Is that a possibility? Because they're carrying them out further and there is more of it being recorded. And if there is a plume, oh my God, why would DEP and EPA ever think that it's a good place for an additional chemical dumping of PCBs by putting that upland disposal facility there, piling on more into our town instead of protecting us? The Kimberly Clark dump has been leaking these chemicals for several years, and DEP's answer is to just order them to add more monitoring wells, which they have. But yet nothing's been done to stop the leaking. Nothing's been done to clean it up out of residents who live over there to get it out of their property. Is that how we can expect them to handle things with General Electric if this PCB dump goes in? If PCBs do start leaking from the proposed dump site and it goes through further into the streams in our neighborhoods or even more, are they just going to tell GE, hey, why don't you add some more monitoring wells like they're doing currently with the Kimberly Clark dump? While everybody continues to get exposed or poisoned by the PCBs because they are more toxic than the current chemicals that are coming out of the dump. Obviously, them ordering additional monitoring wells, it's not going to do anything to fix the situation. So what I'd like to do is hopefully request that the Selectboard could maybe step in and get two things going. So for the future situation, if this PCB dump ends up going through and we don't win our fight, can we get a baseline of testing of our town's water and the reservoir that the Leahy's so generously has gifted to the townspeople to use? And to quickly send in a request in writing to DEP for them actually to address the current leaking issue with that dump. Again, because it just continues to flow, and I know Jim Castanero's property is affected. I don't know many other people personally who live over there, but I know his property is. So they put up the solar array back in 2016, I think it was? And that services both Lee and Lennoxdale, is that correct?
I don't know that, yeah.
Yes.
Is that right? I don't know that, but yeah,
Okay.
I'd take your word for it.
Okay, and you know, it's a 2.7 megawatt solar array. And is there money being made on that by Schweitzer, by the developer? Is there a reason why we can't hold them accountable? You know, is there a financial thing? Oh my God, do they not have enough money to clean this mess up?
Let's hope they have it. Let's hope they have enough money.
Yeah, they better.
Yeah.
Right, Jen?
Oh, yeah. I've seen the pictures, Jim.
Yeah.
Right.
Terrible.
We all have, I think.
Terrible.
So, and then there's just a general statement I would like to say that how are we ever going to have reassurance that DEP or the EPA is ever going to be able to keep an eye on General Electric, which is an even larger company with a larger situation, with the toxic PCBs, when the DEP has allowed Schweitzer Mod dump situation to go on for years. There's a record of this stuff leaking for years, the dioxane and the naphthalene. And how much longer is it going to be allowed to be continued to go on?
Okay.
On a side note, HR would like to set up a meeting with the select board about the current court case and matters of litigation. Some things have changed, and there's a possibility of a needed amicus brief involvement. And we know that that needs to be done in executive session, but we just wanted to put that forth to you guys so something could be set up in the future.
And I just ask a quick question from
Yes.
you? On the testing, we're looking at specifically for dioxins, right? Some
Yes.
baseline
And
testing
naphthalene.
the water. And naphthalene.
Naphthalene,
no, so-
those are both that are identified here.
Those are both
Packet.
identified here, but as far as the town water and the reservoir,
Yeah.
there's something called an Appendix 9 that DEP typically uses, and it has a larger coverage. And because we don't know fully for sure, I don't know who babysat Kimberly Clark,
Yeah.
Schweitzer, what is actually happening up there, so I think it's better to have a larger array of what we can include in the testing. So I believe it's called an Appendix 9, and then it also includes something called congeners, which I'm not that good at explaining, but look it up online, everybody. Yeah. Yeah. So how I have this laid out in here for you guys in the packet, the first section just shows that the proposed upland dump facility would only be 1.19 miles from the town's reservoir on the Leahy property.
Yep.
That the second page gives that there are 36 NGL, which is actually the same as parts per million. I don't know if you guys know that, but it's just a little research behind changing the measurements, and it's the exact same. I went on the EPA website. I actually screenshot it on my phone if anybody had any questions.
So the unit MGL is akin to parts per million. is what you're
Correct,
saying.
yes. And then the third sheet was the slightly upper hill, outer side of the perimeter is where that 36 UGL actually came from. And it talks about its significant high turbidity of 1,000 NTUs. So that basically has to do with the clarity and how many like larger parts and smaller parts, and like DEP only recommends, I think it's, the number is so low. I have it right on my phone.
Like 003?
Yeah, I think it's 0.003. No, that was a dioxane.
Dioxin.
Yeah. But the number in comparison is crazy to what's actually going on that upper hillside. Okay. All right. Typical turbidity values would be freshwater 21.5. Sorry, I lost it. Typical are, I'm sorry about that. Solution, smoke and air. 20 NTUs in a river. And they're reading, the turbidity is 1,000. up at that spot. So you can just imagine whatever sludge is going on up there. The next one is, let's see, it's got the 1,4-dioxane result.
Yep.
So this one was done in 2016, which was at 24. There's another one that the level was at 36. And it's just, this one was done by DEP, by the way. So it just shows you the increase in numbers. I was just pointing that out, but you'll find that when you read the report yourselves. The next is the Appendix 9, and this is the one I was explaining to you, Chris, that has, as you can see, a huge array of different types of chemicals and things that would show up in the testing. The naphthalene, the results were 38, and that is in Jim Castanero's yard on his property, which is ridiculous that they've done absolutely nothing to help him. He's got grandkids, he's got children that live with him. It's terrible. Your puppy you gotta keep out of there?
Dogs died from cancer.
2 dogs. 2 of his dogs have died from cancer. I mean, come on. The next one, 2, 3 from the contest are the ones that, let's see, these were sent in, oh, these were paid for by HR. How much did those cost, Tim, for HRI to do those, send the test water into the company in Northampton? The samples.
How much did it cost HRI to do the?
Pay for that sampling, yes.
$2,500.
So, just to give you a general cost.
One of the samples was 2,000, that's the appendix 9.
Okay.
It's very
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
Which is a more broad testing,
Well, it looks for everything,
yeah.
you know?
Yep.
It's something that's actually really good to have for your water supply. So that's, as Ann is talking about that, I think it's, you know, the message she's getting across here is that we need to have that baseline. It's so important, because if we ever get into, you know, in the future, we find out our water supply is getting, you know, contaminated from PCBs, which we have data that shows that a pond, you know, we had a pond in Sheffield that, this is an EPA project. They took a pond because they were telling us about PCBs going volatilized, and HRI has been a big volatilization thing. And so they picked this pond called 3 Mile Pond in Sheffield and said, oh, look, it's going to be clean. Well, you know, I don't have to tell you the story, okay?
Yeah.
It says that it wasn't clean. And it shows that river, 3 Mile Pond, it's just slowing down and volatilizing into that pond. So it's not a wacko theory that this could happen to our water supply someday. And I just think it's very important, especially if we get this dump in town, because this thing is gonna cause a lot of heartache and problems for the town forever. Everybody thinks it's gonna be a free ride with this dump, you're all nuts.
No.
I'm gonna talk about these 2
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry, I got off.
It's good, Tim, it's good. We work together, it's good. So I have here just printouts that you can get, anybody can get online. This one happens to come directly from EPA's website. And this here is technical fact sheet about what dioxane is. Just so people in general can go check themselves. So the EPA's Integrated Risk Informational System, they call it IRIS, database includes a chronic oral reference dose of 0.03 milligrams per kilogram per day, based on your liver and kidney toxicity. And obviously the dioxane that's in Jim's backyard in that neighborhood is way higher than 0.03. Side effects are actually very similar to side effects of the naphthalene and toxic PCBs. There's cancer, there are, oh my God, I didn't fully read this myself. Sorry. Nausea, vomiting, malaise, confusion, anemia, headaches on a regular.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The list goes on and on. I'm not even gonna get into it.
I would just ask you to, yeah, if
So
you
what I'm
wanted to
gonna do is I'm gonna
summarize.
give these to you guys.
Yeah.
I only have 1 copy of each again.
Is
It's time
this,
frame.
was this in the email?
These are not.
Those aren't, okay,
These are
yeah.
We'll get copies.
We'll get copies
to
made.
share, that would be
Thank you,
great.
yeah,
We'll
yeah.
definitely do
We can
copies.
do that.
Okay, just gonna move it off the mic.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you,
your time
Thank
and
you.
listening.
Thank you. I have a question, Jim. How often does the DEP show up to do any, or send anybody to do testing?
The testings are done every other year, by the way, for that dump. They're not done every year.
Okay, thank you.
Just like to add to some of our stuff, Jim Gasker, 111 William Road. They got all test wells on Willow Street, on where Lane Construction is. They go down, I think 110, 120 feet. These samples are surface water, right on the surface. So that's pretty bad. You dig down 5 or 10 feet, I can imagine what's gonna come out of that ground. And it's getting worse back there. There's a little stream that goes there. There's no life in it whatsoever anymore. There used to be all kinds of fish in there. You got, on the opposite side, you got toxic waste, yellow shit coming out of the other side.
Yeah.
I never seen that before. So you got a plume under there. The plume goes right to the Washy Mountain Brook. It probably runs under Ed Leahy's hill and Johnny Tyre's hill. I'm sure it runs right to the river there. Yeah, and again, there's no test wells back there, and that's by design. So they need to clean that up. And I think we need some help doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we're still in public comment. Tim, if you wanna.
I just want to thank Ann for doing a presentation tonight. It's good to have new HRI members learning the data and learning how to talk it. So she did a great job tonight anyway. Thanks, Ann. So I'm here to turn things around for a few minutes, okay? Is that on April, well, right now it's tentative yet, okay? But it got moved to April. HRI has invited ecospheres to Berkshire County. Right now, it's tentative. I'm speaking with the company again on Thursday, and we almost have it all arranged for them to come. Ecospheres is a NASA technology, folks. Whole different ballgame now. Okay, 3 technologies they have, created by a lady from NASA. And she has licensed her technologies to ecospheres, okay? And they're coming through here. These guys have incredible technology, and it looks like it could be, definitely one of the ones that we want to really look at. And of course, at HRI, our dream has always been, and we've been fighting to use technology. I mean, we did the first major technology conference in 1995, okay? Hundreds of people came to that conference. And so what I'm just saying is this site is always been ripe to use technology. And if the EPA and the powers that be that leave it this way, it's just so stupid, because there are better ways to handle it in this day and age. But the EPA, as we like to say, they're stuck in the mud. And if you look at what EPA is doing right now, and then you look at what they were doing 30 years ago, they're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They haven't progressed anything.
Yeah.
And that's why, we've been trying. I mean, they've told HRI when we began, that PCBs don't get in the air. We totally proved them wrong. They had to finally, after 10 years, admit to us that it gets in the air, because all of a sudden EPA started sampling the air, and I guess we were wrong, But these folks don't get it right. So anyway, the bottom line is these guys are going to come up, if all goes well, and they're going to tell us about their technology. And like I say, they have this NASA thing, on there, and doesn't get better than that, as far as being backed up with some science.
So Tim, do you have a proposed location that people can get the heads up on, or not yet?
Well, not yet,
Okay,
but
Thanks.
obviously I got to get on the phone and see if we can we can do it here. There's a slight chance I was thinking of doing it in Lenox, just because Lenox needs a little waking up on this whole issue.
Not a bad
They're
idea.
sleeping, I think, and
Not
so maybe I'll do it at Lenox High. I'm not really sure, but. Not that I want to, take it away from Lee, but the Lenox people need to be woken up a little bit about all this stuff too.
They seem to care more about cell towers than they do about PCB poisoning.
Yeah. So anyway, I've been talking to them. It looks great.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think they're coming, guys, and it's gonna be wonderful, and we'll learn.
Great.
And right behind these guys, we have a company called TerraTherm.
Mm-hmm.
They're the company that did the dioxin cleanup in Da Nang Airport in Vietnam, okay? They finished the project. It's been hailed one of the greatest projects that ever happened on chlorinated hydrocarbons. It's a wonderful technology too, because what they do is they set up a giant greenhouse. You know, I love greenhouses, you know, so they set up a giant greenhouse. I mean, big ass greenhouse, you know, it's big. And then they put these little, where is it? Is it on here? I don't even know if it's on here. I thought I had the picture of it. Huh? Yeah.
I see the spears in those packets.
No, the spears aren't here. Yeah, okay, I forgot the spears. But they got this unit. It looks, it's like a
I've done some little research into this, the sorbent polymer stuff,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
So the
So-
spears, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so it's all right, you know. So anyway, that's what I wanted to tell you, is just that they're coming. They're from NASA.
Okay.
And one little thing more on, you know, we've been working, Ann and I, on this presentation for a while now too, and Ann, you know, is an HRI member, and she's learning the ropes here, and she's great at all this stuff I found this afternoon, and especially manipulating data. But the plume underneath that's going on with the Kimberly-Clark dump, we've researched more information that has gotten us really worried about, more worried about this dump. It's one of the reasons we're like trying to crank it up right now, and like, let's get on trying to figure out what to do with this thing. So we looked up dioxane at other dumps. What is it doing at other dumps? We wanted to find out. Well, it's leaking and it's creating plumes. There's a plume in Denver that has a 2-mile long dioxane plume. You see, the dioxane, the chemistry, is it's soluble in water, okay, whereas PCBs and all the other stuff isn't. And this dump, Kimberly-Clark dump, is all cracked on the top. The cap is cracked, so you can imagine what goes through the crack in the top of the dump. Water goes into the dump, and it pushes out dioxane because it's soluble. And so when we find out these dumps can go as big as 2-3 miles, I mean, you know, the plume, excuse me, can go 2 or 3 miles, my mind goes to, you know, the neighborhood that lives around this whole thing, okay? And I'm, you know, the hill, the high hit up on the hill that Ann showed you, the 30, was it 36, Ann? I think it is. It was 36 parts per million or something like that. That hit is going uphill from the top of the dump. How the hell is that happening? You know, except that the plume is getting bigger and bigger. And it's not only coming out underneath Ed Leahy's houses and the houses that are down there, but it looks like it's going the other direction uphill. How the hell does that happen unless there's a big plume underneath there? So I'm concerned that the plume is massive.
Well, why don't
I'm
we-
scared about it. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I've never seen anything like this. It's an incredible out of control mess.
Yeah, Tim, I think we got a lot of information here, and we're definitely going to review it and try to work with you if we can on some of this, because I know I've seen some stuff from DEP on the dump and their testing, and they even said, I don't know if you were on the board when we were looking at this, but they said that they weren't going to really do they didn't have any plan to mitigate it, because we inquired at one point about this dump too with the DEP, so we'll do it again.
You know what we call the EPA and DEP, you know, the EPA, we call it the Office of No Innovative Technology, okay?
Yeah.
Good luck with the EPA.
Thank you, Tim.
Technology.
Well, we'll reach out and see what we can do.
All right,
If you guys want a tour, you guys are welcome.
Sure, thank you.
If I may.
Administrators welcome
Yeah.
also.
yeah,
Got a
thanks,
nice big path back there.
thanks, Jim.
Gas masks.
Please, Bob, you go ahead.
Yeah, I want to thank Ann and Tim and everybody here from HRI for bringing this to us, because in some ways, we're very, very fortunate that we have a private citizenry that's willing to put themselves on the line, put in the time and the effort and the money to find out for us Because if this were some other unfortunate town, this would go on forever. And it has gone on forever already. But before we move on, I just want to say, I don't want to drop the ball on the request that we talk to HRI about this amicus brief.
Yeah.
This is something that's new, and we haven't had a chance, but I do think we're going to have to do it. It involves litigation, possible litigation on this. I don't want to drop the ball on that, and I don't think we should drop the ball. I think we should do it as soon as possible on testing the town water. So I think that that
I
baseline.
agree.
We should absolutely do that.
No, I agree.
And we wanted to do it for a long time. HRI's been reaching deep into their pockets to do a lot of the stuff. It's time that we started to prepare for the worst. And then I think we have to have an in-depth discussion about where do we go with this Schweitzer mill dump, because you know, this is, I'm almost panic-stricken at this point, and it's only going to get worse. And somebody used it, Ann used the term piling on. Well, that's exactly what's happening here. And as far as monitoring, we see what the DEP is doing, monitoring the Schweitzer dump.
Nothing.
Expect the same should a PCB dump go in. Expect the EPA to take a hike, expect the GE to break up, and we're gonna end up with a dump forever.
And a Superfund site.
Yeah, and so we you know, we're lay people up here, you know, and this is a huge thing, and we just have to strategize and move forward, find a way to bring in, I don't know how we do it with the New York Times, that people, we are the next American tragedy, unless we do something now, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Thank you. All right.
Can I just say when the town.
Really quick, Tim. Yeah.
Testing the water supply. I need to come up again?
No.
Oh,
No.
I just want to say, if we get around to testing the water supply, I would really like to be in on with the person from the water department that will be doing it, just to make sure they do the right samples. Okay, that's all. Because it's very critical. You can blow it and they can easily, and they normally do the sample you don't want them to do all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you don't get, if they don't understand it, they probably have never encountered it in Appendix 9. So it's just that I have that information and I can make them feel easy about, you know, what they're doing, you know? It's
Yeah.
just a way to make the water, the new water guy or whatever, you know, understand it, because
Yeah.
it's scary to do that, you know, to test something like PCBs in your water supply.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for the public comments. I'm gonna continue on, I think, into general business now. We have an update from a committee here, Council on Aging, that I know we're itching to get to, so I think we have somebody here. Thanks. Thanks for.
Claire had her hand up for a comment.
Why don't we allow, I'll come back to Claire. Sorry, can you hang on,
No,
Claire?
let Claire in.
You let Claire in? Okay, she'll yield to you, Claire. Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't see your hand there, Claire.
Thank you very much. I will try to make this quick, but I want to be sure that you're focusing on the last plan, proposed plan of GE. Can you hear me okay? Because I'm
Yes.
breaking up.
Yes.
Okay. The last plan that you can comment on is February 23rd, and that's the stretch of river that goes through Lee that concerns us most and concerns me most. I want to see that river cleaned up, but the fact that they are not planning to do any more PCB testing, I will not know whether or not there is a plume spreading from the river into my house, into my yard, because they are just going to, they've already sent a letter to the Conservation Commission and supposedly to the DPW also, that if anybody comes before the town with a proposed, a notice of intent to build or a request for determination of applicability, either to the building committee or to the Conservation Commission, those two groups, town groups, are to notify GE, EPA, and DEP, and it's all spelled out in that plan, the proposal that has, you can make comments on February 23rd. It's all laid out there, the procedure that will be gone through if somebody proposes to do something on their property. But the point of it is that we will not know anything about how many PCBs or if there's a plume under our house unless we propose to do some work on our yards. And that's true of anybody up and down the river or in the floodplain. The Conservation Commission and the Highway Department are supposed to notify those three agencies if there is anything that comes across their desk. So the only way people that are boarding the river or living in the floodplain will know if they have a problem in their yards will be if they decide to do some construction. Do you understand?
Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask Claire a question before she goes out?
Sure, quick, yeah.
Hi, Claire. Ann Lineless here.
Hi.
Can you tell me, answer two questions. Number one, how did you find out that information? Those letters were sent to both the Conservation Commission and to the DPW?
It's in the plan. It's in the EP, it's in the proposal that GE has. They were required by EPA to send those notices to those two agencies in all 5 towns. The Conservation, I'm on the Conservation Commission, so I know the Conservation Commission received one, and I sent a copy. I think it was today, I sent one out to Bob, and I have sent a letter to the Board of Health about this, feeling, because Conservation Commission was feeling that this is more, actually they had no opinion on it. I started thinking about it more and thought this is more a matter of health than it is a matter for Conservation Commission. So here we have houses, 28 properties in Pittsfield and Lenox that have been identified as having PCBs and have gotten, the GE has gotten their legal permission, their permission to go in and clean up those properties. The only way we would ever be able to have a cleanup is to take that chance of bringing in a private company, I guess, and paying for it, and then worrying about what we're gonna lose as far as the economic value of our home. I think we need a task force to just look
Claire.
at that plan and try to figure out, there's so many issues there, and that was Bob Westfire's.
Thank you, Claire. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think we got it, yeah. And I'd like it, at this point, I'd like to move on if we can.
Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. We're gonna move into general business here. We have an update from the Council on Aging, so please, if you could identify yourself and give us
Hello, I'm
just a point of order, guys. Hey, just a point of order, guys. If you're gonna have Jim, and if you're gonna have a conversation, just take it outside, please. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Patrick Wrigley, and I am the Council on Aging and Senior Center Director, and there's been some interesting conversations. You guys are doing a great job. First I want to apologize because I've been the Council on Aging Director for 7 years, and I have been wanting to get here to speak to you guys because there's a lot of interesting things going on at the Council on Aging, so I just want to run a few things by you. We're located because there's this misconception that because our Council on Aging is at a Berkshire Housing Complex, the public's not allowed in there. So the Berkshire Housing Complex thinks that we're just there for them, and the outsiders don't realize that they can come to our senior center. And we're for all the seniors in the town of Lee. So I hope we get more people in. We do put a newsletter out once a month. It's at the post office, the town hall, the library, the Lee Bank. We deliver it to the Hyde Place and Brown Memorial. And we have a lot of variety of different activities. We have a knitting and crochet group. We have a beautiful pool table that nobody uses. We schedule it on our newsletter, but nobody takes advantage of it. We have an exercise class once a week and a Tai Chi class once a week. We have bingo, And we have breakfast every Wednesday morning, which I think is great that you have music at breakfast. We don't happen to have it, but it's something we should incorporate. And we do have music and entertainment. We have an AARP tax service, which is a great program. It is now filled. We have a wait list. We have the brown bag that's delivered once a month. We have Meals on Wheels, who's delivered every day. We have a group called Days for Girls, which is a sewing group. And we also sponsor a Girl Scout troop, which we are selling Girl Scout cookies, if anybody's interested. We have 3 of our seniors who are actually Girl Scout leaders. And we've had the group for 2 years now. We have the Shine, which is an insurance program that is open to all our seniors, which is phenomenal because they don't charge anything and you can learn more about your insurance and update it. We have craft classes, we have educational classes, and twice a year we have a Matter of Balance class. And the big thing that we have is we were able to, through BRTA, get a van. The hard thing is Abbott's limousine service, who has been wonderful, who supported us all through COVID. This van takes the place of the Abbotts, who I can't say enough about them. They were great. We leased the vehicle from the BRTA for $0. The lease COA is responsible for all the costs, the driver, the fuel, the maintenance, and maintenance is done by the BRTA as scheduled or private approval is needed. The lease COA provides BRTA with monthly data as requested, and then the practice of the BRTA has to be set aside funds to assist the COA. Through June 23rd, the COA gets a monthly stipend of $285.56, which goes to the Council on Aging. And this value is calculated by a percentage of rides provided compared to total rides of all COA vehicles as well as the BRTA budget. And they cannot guarantee that the stipend will continue forever, but it has been their practice. So the monthly value will be announced when the budget is established, probably in April, but certainly May. So I'm still learning the practice, and thanks to Chris, who helps me when I call and say, help, I need help with this paperwork, and so that's the story. So I really do hope that more people take advantage of the Council on Aging. We are there Monday through Thursday from 8 to 4.
And Pat, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've had a good response with the new van service.
Yes.
A lot of people have been using it and been happy. We can carry more people to more places.
Right now, we only have the van Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it's local for, like if you want to go to Suburban and Big Y, wherever you want to go in Lee. And people have really been taking advantage of that. We have Kevin Maroney as our driver. We are still looking for another driver. We also have our town car is still on the road, and we drive that Monday through Thursday, and that's for medical appointments only. But we go to Pittsfield and we go to Great Barrington. And Gene Tyre is our driver for that, and they both do a great job. Our seniors love them. And I don't think people are aware that we drive Monday through Thursday. We're not open on Friday. And usually we request morning appointments because our driver only just drives till 1:30. The van goes from Kevin's reliable for anything. He'll come in as early as 8 o'clock and drive to 2. That's Tuesdays and Thursdays. Hopefully we get another driver, then we can expand the hours Monday through Thursday. That's our goal.
If anyone knows someone who's interested, we have the funding for the second driver, so we
Yes,
can
we do have
more
another
days,
interesting
but-
candidate, so we're in the process of interviewing him. So we'll see how that works out.
So I have a question. If somebody is listening and they're interested, where do you park and where do you walk in?
That's been the hard,
Yeah,
that's a
it's
hard
tough.
spot because it's just first come, first served. That little section, and actually.
Which little set, where?
If you drive into Crossway Street, because
Yep,
we're on 21
yeah,
Crossway Street,
right.
and it's a small street, and it's only, you could probably maybe fit 8 cars there. So the hard part is, there's 2 tenants who live right down there, so they get the first.
Sure.
But nobody is actually supposed to be parking on that street, because it's a narrow street. But it's, and we do have one handicap spot there that we just put in maybe 2 years ago. But it is hard for them to find parking there.
So
That's
it's the
been a
only
big
entrance,
problem.
the only entrance really is right there off of that
Yes.
street where we used to go for the
Yes.
baby town meeting, if anybody knows where that
Yes.
is, so, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I just didn't know if there were other entrances or what you're allowed to.
There's entrances, but they're all locked, because it's a
Okay,
locked,
sure.
Berkshire Housing is a locked unit. And sometimes people have difficulty, they're still telling me, are you still on Railroad Street? Because that's where
Yeah,
the
it
Council on
used to be.
Aging used to be, on Railroad Street. I said, no, we're not on there. And they said, well, it's still on your website somewhere that it's Railroad Street.
Oh, well, we
So,
better check that out.
We have to check, I know.
Yeah.
It's like, but yeah, the parking is.
Chris will be all over that.
It's, it's hard, that is one of the difficulties, is the
Yeah.
parking.
Yeah, okay.
Because when Meals on Wheels come, they park there in the morning, and they have about 6 drivers, so they all park there and they wait for the van. So it's hard to even start any activities in the morning, because there's no parking.
All right.
And I worry about the ones, because there's some that come with walkers or canes, and,
Okay.
so I worry about them.
All right, well, maybe we should be talking to them a little more about Berkshire Housing a little more, about opening up some parking.
Yeah, it's a tough.
Somehow, it
Yeah,
is,
I don't
it's a
know.
tough site,
It is a tough
very
site.
tough site, or a
During the
different
games,
access
too,
point.
The basketball games, it
Yeah,
gets tough
oh,
there.
yeah, okay. All right, well, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
How young do you have to
And that's another exception, because, if you're like 65 or 70, you think, I'm not going to the senior center, because everybody's still active. So it's like, but we do have a lot of fun.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you for listening.
So next we have granite renewable presentation. Do we
have
somebody-
Ian on the line here.
Ian, thanks for your patience, if you're still with us.
He might be muted
Yeah,
or not there.
we might have lost. There he is.
Everything great?
Yes.
Great. Well, I had some audio issues here in the group earlier, so if there's anything that's not coming through clearly, please just let me know.
Okay.
Thanks everybody for taking the time and letting me walk through this. How much time do we have presently to go through the presentation?
How much time are you planning?
I can make it as long or short as the group wants.
I mean,
we spend 10 minutes.
I was
10
gonna.
minutes now.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Great, sounds good. So first off, thanks Chris. Gordon, good to see you again as well. Had a chance to come down and see the group about a month ago at this point. We got invited back to present sort of who we are, what we're up to. Granite Renewables is located in New Hampshire. We focus only on front of the meter energy storage systems. And that's what I'd like to speak with the group about today.
It's impossible to understand what you're saying.
There's a whole bunch of
Hang on. If you, Ian, one second. You can't understand?
No.
I've got it. I can understand him fine up here. So.
I asked him to put his hands away from his mouth.
He has to talk directly to the mic.
I take his hands away from his mouth.
Could you just try to speak a little clearer for us, Ian? And if you, yeah, there you go.
I'll turn it up a little bit too, if that helps.
Thank you. Continue.
Sure. So Granite Renewables was in contact with the town approximately a month ago regarding 2 locations in town to site energy storage projects. These projects are specifically at the Woodland Road area site and 300 Stockbridge Road. The proposal to the town is to negotiate a long-term option to lease agreement to site projects at these two sites and to work in partnership with the town to bring these projects to fruition. The projects themselves would help the town in a few various capacities. One through rental and lease income, another through payment in lieu of taxes or fee in lieu of taxes in terms of long-term tax revenue. And then the products themselves would just contribute to the resiliency of the grid, as well as the state and regional decarbonization goals. I'm on page 5 presently, but there are some background items here that we probably don't need to spend a lot of time on, and I let the group review on their own. But energy storage systems, generally speaking, store energy at times of low demand and discharge at times of high demand. These would be large-scale front-of-the-meter projects sited on 115 kV interconnections, and so these are, utility-scale projects focused on the energy storage market. The two sites under discussion here, the Woodland Road area as well as the Stockbridge Road area, have favorable characteristics for interconnection. They are adjacent both to 115 kV, as I was saying, interconnection, and it's one of the reasons that we reached out to the town. I can just pause there before I go into the general timeline and background. There's a lot of background that I did skip over here, so I'm just going to pause to see if anybody has any questions.
I just had a quick comment for those in watching. So the two areas where I think they came up maybe eight or 9 years ago and have had local approval at town meeting for solar at those two locations. So these are the same locations we're talking about, which is the town landfill and the area right along the turnpike. So we had approved at town meeting for solar several years ago. That didn't come to fruition, mainly because of the company.
The company
we were
went
working
bankrupt.
with.
They went out of business.
So this, instead of the solar panels, is a little less intrusive, but it still does the green energy and still brings revenue to the town, but they're basically storing, as Ian said, excess energy from the grid rather than producing it. But when solar panels are producing extra, and Ian can explain it better, but
Are you talking about put solar panels on another Lincoln dump?
Not solar panels, but battery storage, yeah.
this would all go to, if we did anything, this would come to town meeting before we entered any lease, just to, So it's just a proposal.
Kathy?
Where's the second location? You got Stockbridge Road?
300 Stockbridge Road, and then this is the other location is off of Woodlawn Road, which is adjacent to where we were just talking about the other dump there, or across the street, really. How much land area? That's a good question. Ian, do you have that? Yeah.
Yeah, so the sort of minimum sizing for projects such as these is 10 acres. That accommodates both setbacks, laydown areas, as well as the installation areas. They're more specific to the 300 Stockbridge Road. There's additional setbacks, as well as the potential for wetland delineation areas, and so that area is sized slightly larger than the Woodlawn Road area, the old dump. But generally speaking, we only look at sites and parcels that are 10 acres or larger.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see any other questions for you. So if you want to continue, go a bit further into background.
Sure. There was just a comment or question of what do these systems do, and fundamentally, what the systems are doing are charging at periods of low demand when prices are low, and discharging at high demand when people are coming home from work, plugging in their electric cars, or just generally have stresses on the grid that are requiring power to be discharged. The reason why this is considered renewable is that the state of Massachusetts and New England in general has sponsored significant renewable energy over time. Basically, the sun shines all at the same time, and there's a lot of solar all at the same time. These batteries are connected to the grid. They effectively charge with solar energy. And then instead of a natural gas generator or coal or someone else coming online later in the day, the batteries discharge that previously stored energy, which is why it's the decarbonizing feature of the grid. So this is why, things like the Clean Peak program in Massachusetts have come to the forefront. This is why they're being sponsored, as it's a form of decarbonation. So I'm on page 9 right now. So I'm on the timeline. Basically, these are multi-year development processes. It is uncommon to do things less than 3 years, and uncommon for them to take longer than 5 years. So I tried to lay out here the development stages and steps that need to take place in order to bring a project from a conversation like this to construction start. Understanding that there's a requirement to go to town meeting. This timeline is representative for projects in the portfolio, not necessarily with the town of Lee here. But generally speaking, these are the steps in terms of general buckets that the project needs to undertake in the development process, and that this project would need to take with the town as well. Generally speaking, the structure and how projects like these go from conversations to actual projects are options to lease are negotiated up front. The option terms for the development period that I was talking about are generally speaking 5 years. And during that period of time, all the development work is ongoing, which included everything on slide 9. The lease terms are usually 25 years with options to extend. And then there's a commercial negotiation on the lease rate for sites. And on top of that, there would be a pilot or pilot agreement to be negotiated with the town in the future for tax base and revenue. So the proposal that I laid out here is what we're in the market talking to other landowners in the state about. It's $2,500 an acre, escalating at 2.5% per annum. And again, that's for the approximately 10 acres. The woodland site is only 10 acres, and the 300 Stockbridge Road area that I defined is larger than that, but we would not need the full 20 that I put square around. In addition to the just commercial terms, we offer to cover legal expenses up to a cap. And oftentimes these are relatively simple agreements to negotiate and sign, and so $1,500 usually covers most folks' legal expenses. In terms of overall benefits to the town, I approximated the project for both payments with the escalations, and this would result just in lease income of approximately $1.7 million of payments to the towns over the 25-year period. And then the pilot is a to be negotiated number, but that would be incremental to the lease income. And then again, just regional resiliency, local resiliency of the grid, as well as decarbonization within Massachusetts are all ancillary benefits that don't have a monetary value but are real. So I can just pause there. I think that was about the amount of time that we talked about.
Yeah,
I can answer any questions.
I have another hand for you here, Ann, if you wanna.
Sure.
Hi, Ann Langlis, Union Street. Did you just say $7 million over the contract term?
I think it was 1.7.
I'm having trouble on that microphone audio.
She was
duration of the call. Can
Yeah.
you please repeat that?
She was asking about the.
I can ask him.
Yeah. Okay.
What was the total that the lease would give to Lee in total amount of dollars?
Approximately $1.7 million.
Okay, I only heard the 7.
Yeah.
Thank you. 1.7, okay.
Correct.
And-
Over the 2 project sites for 25 years.
Oh, that's combined for both sites?
Yes.
Okay. So the company Granite Renewables, they're the ones who will actually make the profit from the storing and releasing of that held energy, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do you have other projects that are already in any local towns around here in the Berkshires with this company?
So we have conversations with landowners throughout Massachusetts, and were you asking if we were working with any towns or municipalities?
Oh yeah, if you had any local ones already set in Berkshires that we could take a look at.
Oh yeah, no, none of these projects. So just to take a big step back, no projects that Granite Renewables is working on, and very few in the country are in operation. We started last year, and these projects, like I said, take a development timeline of 3 to 5 years approximately. We will have no projects in operation for several years.
Okay, and I just had one more question, and I think you're probably not going to want to answer it, but with a 10-acre situation that you wanted to set up in Lee, do you have an idea of what kind of profit that this company, Granite Renewables, would make comparative to the 1.7 million that they're offering us to pay for the lease? Thank you.
Sure. It's completely speculative. We could lose all of the money that we've invested here. If the market went away from us, we could make 0 profit as opposed to the contracted lease payments the town would make.
Thank you, Ian. Do you want to, is there anything else you want to add before we finish up with you?
No, really appreciate the time. Thanks for letting me at least explain the concept and review the materials. I'm free to Chris has my contact information and free to answer any questions that might come up with the group here.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. I'd say that, let's review this a little bit further. I know we've talked about this at previous meetings, and then maybe we can revisit it at a later date.
Sure.
Is that?
Sounds good.
Bob, is that fit?
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you all.
Have a nice night. That'll bring us to our next order of business. We have a release of a lien for the property of 260 Stockbridge Road. Sarah, thanks for your patience as well.
Sarah Naven,
go
Board
ahead.
of Assessors. I'm representing the 260 Stockbridge Road. Attorney Ogiani could not be present for the Trudens. They sold their property back in January, and unbeknownst to them, they still had an outstanding lien. Back in 2003, they took out a term note with the town of Lee and the Lee Regional Housing Rehabilitation Program, care of the Berkshire Housing Development Corporation, and that lien was for 15 years. That lien was also to basically make improvements on their home, and if they did not sell their home or transfer their home within a certain period of time, the lien would be forgiven. And that lien forgiveness date was back in 2018. So in 2023, they sold their property, so they did not discharge the lien. So I'm coming before the board tonight to let you guys basically please release the lien. So Berkshire Housing can record the discharge of lien, and the house and the property will now be free of any liens and encumbrances.
No, I get it. We did a lot of those.
You did.
We did a lot of those back
You
in the day
did,
when people
and-
needed money.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was on the board at the time.
Yes.
And it was a great program.
It was.
And so basically, people got the money for free as long as they stayed there and had a redeveloped their property and updated it. And now they fulfilled their end of the bargain.
They
It
did.
sounds like we should be upholding the end of our bargain.
Correct.
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. But
I don't have any questions, Bob.
No.
So I'd entertain a motion to acknowledge that the term note has reached its fulfillment date and there's no longer a payment
And release the lien.
and release the lien.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
If there's no further discussion, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Thanks for waiting around.
Next order of business here, we have a one-day alcohol license. This is for the Lee Lions and Sons. Oh, Lee Lions. Is there two here? Or is it?
No.
It's the same,
I think
but
it's
they're
joint.
joint. Yeah. So the Lee Lions and then the Sons and Daughter of Italy. Yeah, this is a one-day, special one-day alcohol beverage license. It's a fundraising comedy show. The event address is 115 Orchard Street in Lee. Starting date, March 25th. And they're gonna go from 5 to 11. So I see the building, so there's approval, we have all approval, it's just waiting on us. If there's a motion for approval, I'd entertain it this time.
Make a motion to approve the fundraiser comedy show for the Lee Lions and the Sons and Daughters of Italy.
I will second that.
And if there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Our next order of business, we have an ARPA funds request from the Lee Community Garden. Chris, do you have the info on this?
Yeah, it was, so they have 3 projects going on. The one that's downtown here by St. Mary's, $1,500 there, and then the one at Brown Memorial, also $1,500, and then a new project, a pollinator pathway project that they're doing, which was $1,000 for a total of 4.
And where does that, where's?
Balance right now is $80,900.
What's the pollinator program? What's that about? Where is it located? Is it a separate space or?
Yeah, I believe what that is the areas where they want to have pollinator gardens for attracting bees and having honeybees. I couldn't tell you much more than that as to the exact locations or anything.
This is sponsored by Lee Community Garden.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, which is in conjunction with, I'm sorry, here we go. I'm just looking at my notes here. The pollinator would be on High Street.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Sounds good.
I'd entertain a motion to approve the ARPA fund request of the Lee Community Gardens.
Sure, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. Discussion? Anybody have any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we have about a little less than 80,000 left in ARPA funds now? at this
Correct,
point
yeah.
With that? Great.
So that hasn't been appropriated, not all spent, but yeah.
Yes, yeah. Next order of business here, we have Berkshire Hills Baptist Church. They're requesting to waive the building inspection fee.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to abstain from this just because I'm not sure if it's affected me or not. What you two decide.
So, yeah, we do this for a lot of nonprofits, so I'd entertain a motion to waive the building inspection fee.
So moved.
I'll second it. If there's no further discussion, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
One abstention, or
Yep.
recusing?
Abstain.
Recuse
Recuse myself.
recusal. Next order of business, we have a matter of a lease that the town has made for the property at 300 Stockbridge Road that we wanted to revisit. And I guess, just some background, at a certain point in time, the town entered into a lease agreement with a farmer and to graze cattle on this property. And after, some time, the town is sort of interested in using this property for other purposes. So we're requesting that to sort of end this lease, and within a period of about 2 years, I think we were discussing, and we have a letter here drafted.
Basically notifying that we wouldn't renew after that.
We're not gonna renew,
As
yeah.
Kathy mentioned earlier, we're looking at what recreational, there's 170 acres there. And all, for the vast majority, they use as recreational open space. So. And that's what this study that Kathy mentioned is looking at, what sort of trails we can add, things of that nature. So.
Yeah, so I guess at this point, I don't know, do we want to go into any further detail on this? Gail, do you have a question regarding this? Just quickly.
I'm just curious, when the lease comes to end, do you think maybe we should put it before the townspeople whether they want to keep it as agriculture or recreational use, or do you think?
Well, whatever we do there, I think, yeah, whatever we do plan on doing there, it'll be before, I'm sure it'll come before town meeting.
Well, yeah, so the lease part would, or is that just like a select
No,
decision?
that's our decision to sort of opt to not re-enter the lease, further down the road, because, we can't do much with I think it's 127 acres that we're leasing at this point, so we really can't, if we want to do anything with the property, that's sort of handcuffing us to not be able to. So that's why we're kind of taking this measure to say we'd like to not continue the lease in the event, but I wouldn't be against some sort of agricultural use in the future, but I think there's a lot of other interests for recreation at that location.
Those 120 acres are basically inaccessible to anyone else from the public.
Right, at this point.
I recognize
And it's
it.
contiguous with another spot, so there's really altogether about 220 acres and then a small strip of land that separates that from Longco.
Right.
So that's why we engaged this study to look at, and there will be more, the study's fairly recently started, so there'll be public meetings going on with that as well. And they've been meeting with, I know you've been to a couple meetings, Gail, already.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
to try to get public input on what we should do.
Okay, I just was wondering, because I know, like, I've been talking to some people and they're against it not being agricultural land, and I just didn't know what the general populace wanted, so I thought
I think
maybe.
we're looking just to free up the asset. It's a very valuable asset to the town. It's not doing much presently, and we're just looking to free it up to, happy to discuss any number of options.
Okay.
It may well stay that way based on master plan studies or, there's just, as Bob mentioned, it's going to free up that asset, so for a lot of different potential uses. Right now, we have nothing in mind, concrete, to do up there, so.
So I think at this point, I'd entertain a motion for us to sign.
One hand up if you want.
Oh, you have a hand on Zoom?
Yeah, it looks like a JC, I just see JC.
Do we have a JC on Zoom?
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, John Cody.
As far as this property at Stockbridge Road, I appreciate what you guys are doing to free this back up. I think it's been a crying shame for all these years that the large piece of town property has not been accessible to the townspeople. And like you say, there's a lot of options that we should be looking at as far as recreation, agriculture, and different things. So I just want to show you my appreciation that you're freeing up this property. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So if there's nothing further, I think is the motion to sign this letter and send to our leasee.
Yeah, sure.
So my turn or yours? I forgot.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, well, thank
We
you.
forward the letter to terminate the lease in 2012.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. If there's nothing further on that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have a number of appointments that we're looking to make. So our first appointment is of an officer in town, Bentown, actually. And did I skip over?
Skip one?
Oh, I just, I was just looking over here. Oh, okay, let's do the Board of Assessors.
sorry,
Yeah, sorry. We'll do the Board of Assessors. So we do have, Patty Carlino has expressed interest in, excuse me, 1 minute. Patty Carlino has expressed interest in the Board of Assessors position. This has been vacant for a number of months now, and we've had it posted. And this is Pat's been our only interested candidate at this point, and we're bringing it forward for approval here. So I'd entertain a motion to appoint Patty Carlino, but I know that there's some people that have some feelings about this, but I would just, just caution everybody, let's, come on, be
Jim
brief.
Castro, 111 Woodland Road. I'd like you to put that on hold. She's still involved in a court case in the town of Lee, as 2 other former selectmen, and she shouldn't be in the town hall on computers and stuff unless you want to let me in and use your computers too. I'm a plaintiff. I say no. Thank you.
Yeah, Ann, do you wanna, is there something you wanna?
I'm going to read something. It'll help me stay focused. My name is Ann Langless, and I live on Union Street here in town. And I've lived in Lee most of my life growing up out in East Lee, going to a little 2-room schoolhouse on Silver Street. And well over 20 years ago, I decided to purchase my home in Lee to invest in my family's future. Subsequently, I also opened up a small business, almost 20 years, it'll be 20 years in May. A little jewelry shop next to Joe's Diner. And though Patty has given her time for decades, and she has done some wonderful, fantastic things for the residents of Lee, for the town of Lee in general, sadly, I feel, she made a decision to sign a contract with General Electric for money in exchange for a toxic PCB dump. The root of her decision-making, that process has caused hundreds of residents, including my family, many of my friends, and now I have new friends that I have met through fighting against this, to feel the cause to be represented in court to fight not only for our future health and well-being, but for our lifelong, and in some cases, generations of lifelong investments in our homes and our properties, costing many people thousands of dollars out of our own pockets to fight this. Years of work have been spent from her making this poor decision-making process, using a poor decision-making process. We have worked hard for years, this group, against the signature of getting that toxic PCB dump in town. We have stressed our families, and there's been hardships for people financially because of this. It's also caused, I believe, for myself, people whom I know, and my family members, a loss of faith and trust in her decision-making abilities. It's because of that reason and that reason only, her decision-making process, that I would respectfully request that the Select Board not appoint Patty Carlino to the Board of Assessors or to any other current open seat within Town Hall. And I would further say, I will get up, I will express the same things of the other 2 Select Board members who sat in their seats and allowed this to happen without getting the people's opinions on how to deal with it. Thank you.
My name is Cindy Mathias. My problem with Patty getting any position back into town hall is that my main concern has always been, I know it's a very small town and there's very few people to pick from, but the nepotism in this town is too much. Her son is often the chair of the planning board committee. She has had power for 24 years. We can't keep going there. The nepotism has to end. I feel very, very strongly about that. It hasn't been advertised for months, Sean. Karen and Valley just passed away 4 weeks ago. Nobody even knew about this assessor's job. It has to be advertised. That's what I came up and I spoke very calmly about when I first came here because I wanted to avoid saying anything about anybody. So I feel that the advertisements have to go out with the explanation of the job, how to get it, what you need, what does it entail before you appoint anybody, and especially not Patty Carlino at this point in time for what we have to now contend with the dump. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kathy, do you want to say something?
Kathy Hall, longtime resident of Lee, Massachusetts. I am saddened that we are not willing to forgive. I need to be very honest. I think all of what we've all gone through in the last, how long, 2 years now?
3.
3 years, okay. Maybe could have been alleviated or mitigated in some sense. I remember very vividly the February meeting, open meeting at Lee Middle and High School. It was so noisy, so angry, that we couldn't even hear the presentation. We didn't give anybody a chance to recant. We didn't give anybody a chance to say, let's see what we can do now. Anything with saying a name of somebody, okay, we should be in executive session over this. Because we're talking about a person. And just because somebody is on one board and related to somebody else that's been on another board doesn't mean that they're involved with each other in making decisions for this town. I don't even know if I'm making any sense because I'm just so saddened. I mean, I've made mistakes and people have left the Lee Youth Commission because I've made mistakes. And I'm like, you fall on your face, you get back up. I mean, do we not forgive our children for their mistakes? Do we just, I understand the scope of this mistake. I understand it, and I support what these people are doing, what HRI is doing. I support them 150%. But I think we need to be a little bit more compassionate about things. Let's stop looking at this individual as made a huge mistake. How about looking at this individual as being the clerk of this town for many years, for being on the school committee, for making really good decisions for this town and bringing us forward and getting us the money we need to have gone forward. So that's all I want to say is let's be a little bit more compassionate. If you decide that, let's leave this open, see if there's other people, that's fine. But let's stop crucifying people for a bad mistake. for something that should have come to the town. I believe that 150%. Because when I was on the school committee, we listened to, can't even think of the words, I'm sorry, old ages. But anyways, the town, okay, and listening to the school committee in terms of our needs and negotiation and all that. We, as the school, okay, we had to go to our clientele, so to speak, and get their okay. So we had tentative agreements. And then the other side had to go to their constituency and do a tentative agreement and then come together. That's what should have happened. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. But how do we correct it? Let's start being a little bit more compassionate, because nobody in Lee wants that dump. Nobody. And you can tell by the amount of money that these people have raised to fight it. So I just, as I said, I'm just saddened, and let me thank you for allowing me to come up and just give my 2 cents.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Kathy.
Tim, if you want to be respectful and brief.
Yes.
You have 2 hands.
You know, I just want to remind everyone that there's a side of this town that's getting the most affected. I live in that side, okay? And Patty Carlino decided to sign a document which ruins our neighborhood forever. It's going to make our houses go down. It's terrible. And Patty signed that document for us, on us. And we in this neighborhood now have to live with the consequences of what, Patty has done. And I don't see where there should be a place for Patty anymore in this government. And I just can't imagine that we would even go there as a town anymore. These people signed onto a document. And I also want to let you know, too, is that right now, the Rest of River Committee, okay, the Rest of River Committee is basically intervening in HRI's case, okay? And it's an outrage. It's just unbelievable that they're doing this. So I'm just saying, this is a mess, again, like everything else in this town seems to be. And I urge you not to let someone who has done that, and especially maybe stick up for our side of town here, is that we in our side of town, we don't see that there's any room for forgiveness for Patty Carlino, because our section of town's getting ruined. And I hope everybody else in the rest of this town starts thinking about us over on that side of town, folks. Because we're getting the most impacted.
You have a couple hands here, Chris.
Hand from Claire and Matt.
Okay.
Claire, if you could please be quick.
Sure. Thank you for recognizing me, Claire Leahy, 110 Mill Street. I just feel there's a conflict of interest here. The Assessor's Board is, I believe, to help set the tax rate, but also be looking at the value of homes and helping value them, and looking at market value, and also the assessor's opinion, and pulling that together. And I would think they are the ones that you would go to for an appeal if you felt that your house wasn't valued properly. And I think down the line, this could get a little complicated, as our homes along the river may be suffering from the market value. And if this discussion came up and there had to be an appeal, I would feel that perhaps I wouldn't get a really fair shake with Patty, because she might not accept the fact that there's some economic loss due to her opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claire, and we have a Matt too here.
Thank you, Sean. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Thanks a lot. Matt Carlino, planning board member. First, I want to say thank you to the select board for all that you do. And you as leaders of our town, I trust that you always make the best interest, the choice for the best interest of the town. Even if I disagree with you, I think you will do your best to make the best choice for us. First, I'd like to just clear up a couple facts. Dayton, the late great Dayton DeLorme passed away 2 years ago. He was an assessor. Karen passed away more recently. So we've been without 2 assessors as of recently, but we've been with the 3rd assessor for 2 years. Has Jim Casanero, Ann, or I don't know the other woman's name, is it Mattias?
Yeah, that's fine.
Who spoke tonight about nepotism, did they put their name forward and volunteer?
I did not, I'm a little busy fighting the dog.
Okay.
So, we've been without volunteers. And I believe I can make the argument that the toxic nature and the aggressive behavior at meetings dissuades our town residents from volunteering. They're intimidated because they're gonna get what you hear tonight.
Good.
There was no
Miss
discussion.
Hey, excuse me. Sorry, go ahead,
That there
Matt.
was Miss Mattias said there was nepotism. Does she know that I got elected by the townspeople? Not by my mother? By the way, I'm a proud son of a dedicated mother who gave 30 to 40 years to this town. Can you guys explain and define for Miss Mattias what nepotism is?
It's just not speaking up.
Lastly,
He doesn't know that. He doesn't.
Excuse me, you had your chance, let Matt go. No, excuse me, Jim, you guys had your chance, let Matt speak, let Matt finish.
He doesn't know what.
Excuse me, I'll ask you to leave if you won't stop. Go ahead, Matt.
this is okay. This is why we don't have as many volunteers as we should. People get accused of things, they get accused of sleeping with GE. Okay, you can disagree with people, but you don't have to be so nasty. But now we can't get volunteers, and the loudest people in the room aren't putting their name forward. They're yelling, but they're not stepping in. So, if they have problems with any of these appointments, put your name in. Actions speak louder than words. I'm proud to be a Lee resident. I'm proud to volunteer on the planning board, no matter what criticism I get. I'm proud of my mother's dedication. You weren't here when the LYA was founded. Who did that? Patty Carlino. I remember when I was a teenager, every night, every week, she was going to the select board meeting as a town clerk to stay updated. So stop talking and put your name forward. And lastly, what does the assessors have to do with PCBs? Can we explain that they're 2 separate items? I hope the select board will see through the nonsense and not let this toxic logic get into the town of Lee any more than it already has. Thank you and good luck.
Jim, you already got a chance to
called me
speak.
out.
No, you already got a
I
chance.
volunteered for this town for 37 years, Matt Carlin. I was a representative.
Jim.
Your mother lied to me.
Jim,
You're a liar.
Jim, you're gonna have to leave, please.
Your mother's a
Please,
goddamn liar.
Jim, that's
You got a
enough.
problem with Act 111.
Jim, you need to stop and
Yeah.
leave. Remove
It's just
yourself from the room.
It's just starting.
Remove yourself from the room.
It's just starting. You want
Another
to
example.
Jim, I've already asked you to move to leave politely, please. Thank you. All right, look, I'd like to end the discussion. I'm sorry, Gail. If you can please make it 30 seconds or less, that would be great, because
What I would like to say is, I think there is a conflict of interest here. And because of the position she's selecting. There could be other boards where it would be, not so concerning to me. And, I mean, Patty Carlino made her decision. A lot of people in town don't agree with it. We're really worried about her health. And there is somewhat of a connection there. But the thing is she basically said, even after we told her we didn't want the dump, that she didn't care. She thought she did the right decision and she wasn't going to change her mind. So she really wasn't listening to us even after she made the decision. And I really don't want her assessing my property because I know from experience, personal experience, that she has tried to keep me off a board. She did. I'm qualified for the Conservation Commission. You can't get more qualifications. And I got my application in time, and I was like, well, you got it in today. I mean, this is personal stuff, but I'm just saying that. Can she fairly assess properties for all the people who actually have spoken out against her? Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I would find it hard. I mean, you always have to go to the higher power and say, okay, you're acting really, petty. You always have to do that. And I just really think that, she's heavily related, to her son is on the planning board.
yeah, but again, Gail, that's.
Yes,
I'm
this
sorry,
is
but you
need to let me finish.
We're getting off of the
No,
subject.
I'm
No,
just
this is about an appointment to an assessor's position.
Right.
This has
And-
nothing to do
Yes,
with a different.
but the
No, it doesn't.
position
No,
of
I'm sorry.
assessors
I'm sorry, Gail.
has
I'm gonna
something to
ask
do
you
with real
please,
estate,
I'm gonna
which-
ask it. I'm gonna have
which
to
our
ask you to
family is
stop.
involved in.
I'm gonna have to ask you to stop, and we're gonna move on with our agenda here.
I wish you would let me finish
No,
talking.
I really
please.
won't. You already had a chance.
Sean,
You already had a
should
chance
let
to
her finish.
speak.
She didn't speak yet.
You already
Too
did.
close to Patty, she's like a mother
Cindy,
to you.
please,
And the
Cindy,
reason why we're in
you're
this
gonna-
situation is
you're-
because
Cindy,
Patty
please
stood
leave.
here as a select
I
board
won't-
on
no.
top of you. We
Cindy.
did not disparage tonight.
Cindy,
I want to say one last
you
thing.
need to leave the room,
We were not
actually.
nasty.
Yes, you
We
do.
all
Cindy,
spoke kindly.
Cindy,
We
please,
spoke nicely and
please
calmly and
remove
kindly.
yourself from
Nobody
the room.
disparaged, nobody
Cindy,
was nasty.
please remove
He
yourself
was
from
wrong,
the
but
room.
he's allowed to
I'm
call
asking
us
you
out.
politely.
We
We're
were
gonna go
nice
get
and
the
we did not
police.
disparage
They will
her. We were
remove
not
you for-
disrespectful.
they will
We were
remove
not
you for me.
disrespectful for 1
Please
minute,
remove
Sean.
yourself
But you think
from the
you're the
room.
boss of everything.
Yeah,
We were
this-
not disrespectful tonight. We were not.
Yeah.
It's enough of you. We know how you feel about her. So you're coming to Joey and you're not being fair to the rest of the town.
Yeah.
You put us through hell, Sean. You lied to us too.
Thank you for everybody who has been respectful during this. I know this has been a tense issue, and thank you for your interest in appointment for the Assessors Board. I do still have an appointment here that I really don't know what to do at this point.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
If you would, Gordon,
yeah,
you have
sure. No,
a
I
suggestion?
would suggest, Jim brought up maybe a valid point. I think we should check with the town attorney just to make sure that the point that he brought up is not a problem. And so I'm going to suggest that we put this off to our next meeting till we can get some legal advice. And that would help us make our minds up if we wish to go forward with this. Plus now, if we have a second person, maybe we can get a little more information and background and whatnot, so we can make a good decision, since there'll be a choice. Because up to now, there has been no choice.
Yes.
That's all. There's been no choice. So I would like to just follow up to make sure that we're not going to step on our toes. If we choose to go with Patty, then I want to make sure that, you know.
Pat, do you have a quick
Smartly.
question?
Qualifications for an assessor.
Well, there's the ability, maybe a background in real estate, believe it or not, and understanding the procedures of what goes on in a board of assessors. It's not just you go in there and say, oh, I think, you know, Chris's property is worth more than what we're billing him for. You know, there's a lot more to that. We just went through a reevaluation. The actual assessors don't go out and make the decision on how much somebody's property is worth.
No.
Isn't it a private entity that
That's
does
it.
that?
Yes, it's our hands are off of that. The assessor's hands are off of that.
Correct.
They do handle appeals, and so that's a valid question also. I'm not in disagreement with that. So that would be my recommendation. I don't think we necessarily have to vote on it, other than, or maybe you want a motion to that, but I would like to just check on some of the issues that were brought up, and, you know,
Yeah, we'll,
that's all.
And one other thing to add, just so that this particular position does require a state training that you have to do.
Eventually, and make sure people can do that and want to do that.
It could be in the future, though.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, you don't do that before you're on.
You do it
get on
after
and then-
you're appointed.
Yes,
Right.
but I think that it's only fair to.
I can read really well. I learn fast.
Sorry, but I think
Okay.
it's also fair of us to check with the town attorney to make sure that in fact, whatever
Isn't an
Jim was
issue.
alluding to, let's make sure it's not a legal issue.
Could be.
If it is,
Never thought.
that could affect the way we have to look at this situation. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Gordon. I think that we should table it for the time being. And also, I'm presuming that Patty is not
I would
online
assume
at this
that, yeah,
point.
yeah.
And given what's been said, and quite frankly, I'll disclose that I've heard from other people who have voiced some of the same concerns that were expressed tonight. I also, I understand where Kathy's coming from. And so let's table it. If Patty wants to respond to anything that's been said, that's fine. If we wanted, I think your idea of looking into the possibility of conflict,
Yeah,
you know,
just
let's
see.
just check it out. And let's continue the conversation. I'm not looking for more consternation and conflict.
Right.
But I'm looking for some clarification, and we will do what we need to do when the time comes.
I'd like to entertain a motion to table if that's.
I'll make that motion. That was my suggestion.
I'll second.
Bob, second. There's no further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next appointment, we have Officer Ben Town, who's been with the town, serving as a patrolman, I believe, for a number of years. I do have a letter here from Chief DeSantis. He's being recommended for the position of sergeant. So I would entertain a motion to appoint Ben Town as a sergeant.
So moved.
I'll second that.
If there's no further discussion, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our next pair of appointments here is for the Board of Registrars. Now, the same individual is up for an appointment for the Board of Registrars along with Mary Swift. This is really non-political. I mean, this is,
I can give you a brief
if
overview.
you want, you know.
I'm still gonna get up express the same.
Yeah, it basically requires, there's two main duties. They check signature petitions, mostly on statewide races when the town gets, you know, hundreds of signatures for a governor's campaign or something like that. And the other is when we have late night voter registrations. They work in the town halls for that. We have to have one from both Republican and Democrat. So two people recently resigned from that. One was a Democrat, one was a Republican. So Mary is on there for on the Republican side and Pat on the Democratic side.
Is there not one for unenrolled?
There is an additional, so that it gets weird, whatever side you're, trying to remember, so the other one is the clerk, sorry. The clerk gets is automatically by default a registrar. And there is none, I don't believe their rules have anything about unenrolled though. They just have to make sure you have a balanced board of registrars, so.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Sorry, go ahead. Most of those signatures are coming in during the primaries, because that's when they're getting their campaign signatures, when they
Is
want to
that
get into
still
that.
under town capacity?
Right, so let's say you were running for governor, you would go out and collect signatures in every town. Those signature forms list a specific town on it, so when you're collecting for Lee, all the signatures have to be from Lee. Then that candidate brings them to the town hall. The registrars go through and make sure they're all registered voters in Lee on the state list of voters, which is public record, but they certify those, and then the candidate picks them up and brings them to state elections too. That's where the bulk of that is, in the larger campaigns. I mean, the town campaigns only need 25 signatures, so the clerk usually handles those. It's not, but sometimes.
It's those larger elections there where you need thousands of signatures, right?
We might end up with hundreds of sheets, so that's where that, so.
I'm asking these questions so that people at home can understand what the capacity is, because I'm not the only one who felt the way I expressed. So if people can understand that this other position that she's put her name in to be appointed to doesn't have any capacity at town hall, perhaps it won't have any conflict of interest with the current lawsuit. So tabling it now would give people at home the time to understand. And maybe the people who have expressed to me some of the things I came and expressed for them would say to me, I don't have an issue with her doing that in that capacity because there are no decision-making processes she'll be handling for me as a resident. So I just think it would be important to explain that so people can understand and make an educated decision.
Do we have any reason to have full board of registrars immediately? What's going on?
There will be some, I don't want to speak for the clerk. I know there are some things coming up, but I don't know off the top of my head what sort of things will be coming down there. So if we could table the whole thing, we could do one of them and not the other.
Well, I don't know that I want to do that.
Whatever the board decides.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I'd be okay with waiting until our next meeting to see if anybody else comes forward as a Democrat. But really, I got to tell you, I don't see this as a problem. I just don't see it as a problem. It's again a volunteer position that we can't get people to do, and if she's the only one on the Democrat side, we had 2 people from the Republican side at least, so that's good. Plus the clerk herself is one of the registrars. So I mean, if you think it really matters, then it could to wait. It could, but I don't have a problem with just going forward with this either way. I don't see it as a problem, but anyway.
It may very well not be.
Yeah.
But I think in the interest of fairness to everybody, including Patty.
Sure.
Because as I said earlier, I think she should have the opportunity to respond if she chooses to do so. I'll make 2 different motions. The first one being I move that we appoint Mary Swift to the Board of Registrars.
I think Jen Carlino's on there too.
Can we?
I have.
Oh, just, okay, there were 2 Republicans, I thought. I'm not trying to make you change your motion.
Mary Swift's up for appointment.
Oh, there are only 2 there, okay, I apologize. I see, so Jen is on there, but not needing to be reappointed.
Right.
Gotcha, I didn't know there was a.
These are new appointments, and we have a few,
Gotcha.
those
Okay.
numbers.
These were 2 resignations.
Gotcha, okay.
So, I have a motion to appoint Mary Swift.
Yeah, I would second that.
Second that.
No problem.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll make a motion that we table the application for the Board of Registrars and tap Carlino at least until the next meeting to see if she wants to respond, or if any other information comes forward that.
Well, okay, for that purpose, I'll second that. I mean, if it's to give her a chance to have a statement, I'm fine with
Yeah.
that.
I just don't think that we want to be in a position of steamrolling anything, and it's not an emergency.
No,
And,
that's why I asked the
right.
question.
Yep.
Did we need this happening right now? That would be a different issue.
So I have a motion and a second. If
You have
there's
one
no-
question from the
Do
public
you have
if
a
you
question?
wish.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to thank you for explaining what the position
Yeah,
does.
yeah, I think, yeah.
That's very
Mhm.
helpful.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our next order of business, we have annual road tolls discussion. So this is a program we put on every year where I think is it 7 or 8 slots that are available for nonprofit organizations who are looking to raise money. They can apply to get a Saturday. I believe it's Saturdays.
We have some in the spring, some in the fall.
Yeah, there's certain dates along throughout the year that we then draw from the pool of applicants that we get, and we assign Saturdays where people are allowed to set up a sign out across, right out front of Town Hall, sort of in between the church's park and Zabian's, and do what we call a toll stop, and raise money for whatever organization they're trying to raise money for. So I think we're really soliciting for applications at this point,
Yeah,
right?
this is just to set a deadline, and I'm just pulling my calendar on here. But to set a deadline for the applications and to publicly announce that we're be accepting them. And then Sabrina has the applications available, we're able to put them on the website. Once the deadline is come in, we can set that deadline for a meeting date here, which will announce who, if we have more than the allotted spots, we'll do a lottery for it. Last year there happened to be less, so everybody got it, and then we opened it up for additional people to come in later to fill a spot. But if there is more, we will do a drawing, and those 7 organizations will get it, and the others will have first preference the following year, since they didn't get it this year.
I was gonna say, that's the way it used to be.
Yeah.
You used to have so many
Right.
people that you had to set some aside, and they were automatic the next year.
Right.
And then you did a lottery with whoever the remaining applicants were the second year.
Yeah,
So I can't do it for beer money or.
no, sorry about
Well, you could try.
No, sports programs for the school are usually.
Civic
we usually get, yeah,
organizations,
civics,
HRI did very well last year, getting donations.
yeah, HRI, yeah.
Usually, Veterans of Foreign Wars always gets Memorial Day
Right, yeah.
weekend.
Yep,
So the 2 logical deadlines, if we want to go in line with the meetings, would either be March 7th or the 21st. So,
Well, it's the 7th, that gives people a month if we can get it out there. And
yeah.
if you don't get any response, we could always let it go one meeting longer, but why don't we set it up for the 7th to start?
Agreed.
And then that gives them a month.
Okay, so do you need a motion to that effect, or?
yeah, that
Yeah.
we'll open them and close
So-
on March 7th.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
That concludes our general business for tonight. Chris, unless you guys have something that you want to say at this point, I'd hand it over to Chris.
Yeah, just a couple quick updates. Finance Committee continues to meet on Tuesdays. They will be with the treasurer next week on the 14th, for if anyone wants to spend their Valentine's Day there. And then there's a week off for school break because a number of our members will be away that week. And then they'll pick back up on the 28th with the school committee. Will be here on the 28th, and then they'll continue each Tuesday through the budget season. Other than that, we have, I did want to just do a quick update that the public safety feasibility study is moving on to schematic design phase. So we hopefully we'll have some actual visuals so we can see more details of what this might look like, the floor plan, some renderings of it and so forth. as eventually this will go to town meeting. Whether we'll get it for this town meeting in May or not, we'll see. We're gonna be pretty close on those things, but we are on phase 3 out of 4 right now, so just an update on that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we did do the response on the Columbia Dam, and I did want to just make one last reminder. Kathy mentioned it earlier, but we have actually 2 surveys on the website right now, which we would love to get participation in from all of our residents. The master plan survey is up, as well as our hazard mitigation plan and our municipal vulnerability preparedness plan, and that is a kind of a fancy way of saying our climate change plan. So there's 2 surveys, they're both online, they're both in the news section, right on the front section of that. When you go in to the main page, you can see a little video about it. There's some background information and then the survey. So we'll have that open for a few more weeks. So.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
When's the school committee scheduled to have their public hearing?
I don't have that date off the top of my head.
But it's not before they meet?
Their next finance is, so their next finance is actually Thursday. The school finance committee's meeting Thursday, which I'll be attending. So I'll see if I can get that information.
Yeah, that would be great to get out as soon as we can if people want to go to that or check it out on Zoom or whatever. Okay, thank you.
All set? Yep. Our next regular meeting is February 21st. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.